evening. Okay, we may not have that particular siren in the village. We probably had one of those wind-up jobs that used to be around, but it was a good effect, wasn't it? Made you walk in, took you back a day or two. War can mean many things to many people. 70 plus years ago, our quiet, agricultural, almost sleepy village found itself in the troubles of the conflict. No German feet on the ground, but many changes. Sons, daughters, fathers and husbands, fighting conflicts in many foreign lands. Sadly, some never to return. Changes would take place, affecting everyone, many that would remain forever. Rover's factory, today Rover's Court, would become a Royal Army Supply Corps, providing all manner of items like bedding, essentials and much more to army units in the area. The factory in Barnes Street, today known as Constable Court, producing military clothing. A detachment of military police stationed in the village for a short time. Also a remit workshop. Not certain where that was, but perhaps someone will tell me later. A large number of concrete blockhouses constructed, most of which remain today. Thankfully, they were not used for their original purpose, defending the airfield. 2,000 plus American servicemen stationed on the Lavenham airfield, many of whom would socialise in the village. Not forgetting, you could not go more than about 8 miles in any direction before coming on another airfield, which was home to just as many young men. Many who would find wives that moved from sleepy Suffolk to New York. Evacuees staying in many of the village homes, mainly from London, some staying forever. It has been suggested that I am not able to verify that the Craig twins spent some time at the Little Hall, apart from a very, very recent picture in the Daily Mail just last week saying that they were in Suffolk. So it could be true. A searchlight battery stationed on the field behind Frogsall Cottages, beaming its light into the night sky. Food, clothing, furniture and petrol all on ration. Not that the petrol presented a problem. To ordinary folks, as hardly anyone owned a car. It presented more difficulties for tradespeople. Just a few of my own recollections. For the first time, as a 7-year-old boy, seeing a dark-skinned American serviceman. None were stationed at the airfield because, believe it or not, even in those days there were still colour issues. Christmas 1944-45, the Americans gave the children a party at the school, with the Father Christmas handing out presents. If you was older, you went to the airfield, but unfortunately I wasn't old enough to go to the airfield, so we had the party in the school. Gifts of sweets and small toys that we had never seen. 50 years later, Joan and me, or I should have said, attended a reunion of the 487 bomb group in Buffalo, America. Joan and me being the only Brits there, I was invited to address a mass to be one of the speakers. So I recalled the Father Christmas story. The next day, a gentleman spoke to me, saying that he was that Father Christmas. That's right, isn't it? Right? All those years, parents befriended army personnel, which in turn meant that their wives would stay at our house for weekends. A gentleman called Frank Singer from Yorkshire, Alan Davis from Wales. These friendships lasted for the rest of their lives. And ironically, when I was doing my national service, I used to go and see Alan Davis in Wales. He used to give me a Sunday lunch. Much better than the army food. A couple of stories that are now lost in the mist of time, but circulated in the village for many years after the war. One of which I was reminded of just a few weeks ago when I was attending another function. One story. There was a young man at that time, he'd obviously be in his 80s now, but Joe Bullock. He had a father which was also Joe Bullock. And the old man was a bit of a local curiosity. And he was part of the Home Guard. On one of the training exercises, the commanding officer said, "Now, Bullock, you're working in the fields, and the German soldier comes down on a parachute. What steps would you take?" Back came the Dad's army reply, "Bloody big ones, away from him." Mr. Howlett, no relation to Hugh, had a butcher shop. Today it was Kent's Printing. Like so many butchers at that time, he slaughtered the animals and sold the meat in the shop, all of which resulted in a large number of bones, which he left on the field behind the shop. I recall seeing them when I played with Ivan Howlett, some of you may recall, who was the managing director of Radio Suffolk. A lady in the village, possibly from the London area, maybe part of the evacuees, inquired what were the bones all about. Mr. Howlett's reply is, "Well, that's where the Home Guard train." Opposite, another story that came to me by a gentleman who lived in the village. And in his own words, I'll tell you this little story. On the common, in front of where Wendy Durrant lives today, opposite what is the post box today, for want of better words, there was a gun emplacement. It was an earth and barbed wire fair. So this is the gentleman's words. "I was 7 or 8 years old. My father had bought me a little wooden wheelbarrow, which me and my friends were playing with. Suddenly, there was a loud noise of a German fighter plane coming low over the village, heading east over Clay Hill, probably on his way home, when suddenly he discharged his bullets into the ground. I don't think he was firing at us, but needless to say, it put the breeze up to us children. So we ran for cover in the gun emplacement. In my rush to get in, I suffered many cuts on the barbed wire. I still have these scars today." These are the words of Fred Means, who lives on the common today. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, this afternoon, I'm not going to say who we're going to interview. I'm going to give you some clues and to see if you can guess who this person is. Now, first of all, he started his life as a baker, and then he went to be delivery man in Bury, and then he became a sub-postmaster in Lavenham, and he then worked as a National Trust officer. He's also been a parish councillor and a charity trustee. So I wonder if we can guess who that is. I think we can, can't we? Okay. Fred, thank you very much for having us here this afternoon. And I'd like to start by really going back a little while and just tell me what you did when you were a naughty boy in Lavenham.
Oh, I don't really know whether I should tell you all this, really. There's one thing that really, when I think about it now, I just think we're all mad. Mr. Simons, who was the town master, was trying to recruit bell ringers, and us lads were up in the belfry, and he did what he wanted to do, and then we said, well, can we just go up on top of the steeple to have a look? He said, as long as you behave yourselves, yeah. Well, 4 of us got up to the top of the church, and because the dairy business came in. And in the end, the four of us were sitting on the corners of the church. And when I think about it now, I just, you know, you think, well, what a stupid idiot. But we sat there, and Mr. Simons' wife came running up the church path, and we thought we'd better get down here. We were in for some trouble here, but you know, we got away with it, and there wasn't anything said about it. That was one thing that we did that we didn't ought to have done. Another thing was we used to go into Mr. Boy's barn at the bottom of Prentice Street before electricity came on, and they used to work by candlelight in there, and us lads used to go in and blow the candle out, and he'd chase us out with a broom and, you know, that sort of thing. We used to knock on doors and run away and that sort of thing. I can't tell you everything.
Go on. What about the people that did it with you? What were the names of some of these naughty boys?
Yeah, well, we were all lads around about the same age. There was Peter Rose, Vernon Day, Dennis Brown, Teddy Smith, and just a gang of us. And, you know, there was, we had to find things to do, didn't we, really?
True.
But most of them are gone now, unfortunately. I suppose I'm a little bit lucky, really, to be the last one left, I think. But
I mean, moving on from the naughty boys, I mean, can you remember things that have happened in Lavenham, like coronations or jubilees, because obviously we're in the Queen's Jubilee this year, that happened here?
Yeah, well, I can't remember the Queen's coronation, apart from the fact it was a wet day. I can remember the 1935 Jubilee of King George V, because I was actually in the parade as a blacksmith. I got the blacksmith's gear, and we paraded all around the village, and I can remember it was a beautiful day. My dad had dressed up his bread van, and I think he got either second or third prize, and I remember who won it, and that was Baker's Mill. They'd built a big windmill on the back of their lorry, and I remember that, but I can't remember anything about the Queen's coronation, strangely enough.
So you don't remember tellies or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember that about it because lots of people went and bought televisions to see it, didn't they? But I couldn't afford a television. Yeah.
And I mean, do you remember things about the railway? I mean, the railway now, of course.
Yeah, I remember a lot about the railway, really. There were around 12 people worked there. There was Mr. Ellis, who was the station master. He was about 6'6", big man. Mr. Charlie Turner, who was the clerk. There were two signalmen, Mr. Twitchett and Mr. Harding. There were two porters, but I can't remember their names. And there were 4 or 5 maintenance men, and I think they maintained the railway from Lavenham to Melford, and they had one of these things that they used to travel up and down on, you know. There was a lorry, they had a lorry here which delivered goods, that was driven by Mr. Charlie Hills. Rather rude man, actually, he was. I remember him bringing some big boxes into our shop, and a lady asked him what was in it, and he said, well, they're boxes of snouts for people like you, he said. They came out just like that, you know. Rather rude, really, but he was like that, though. Yeah, and I can remember the Americans that were up at the base here left from Lavenham, and they were all down on the forecourt of the station. The Salvation Army band was there. Lots of weeping ladies were there as well. And they were huge. They were really long trains. I don't know where they all went, but they went. I mean, there were about, it couldn't have been all of them because there were about 3,000 up there, I think.
Really?
Yeah. And of course, it's gone, and that went. We were waiting for a machine part for the bakery, and I went down one night, 7:20 train, to pick it up off the train, and there was one passenger on the train. And I said to Mr. Turner, who had then become station master, "Not very profitable tonight, Mr. Turner." He said he works the railway anyway, so he hasn't paid anywhere. So I suppose you could understand really why they closed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did it run from?
Well, there's a junction at Melford. One line went off to Cambridge, and the other one came through here to Bury St Edmunds.
Right.
And I think that was about 100 years, wasn't it? I think it was built in 1865 and was closed in 1965.
Because people used it to go to school on and everything,
Oh
didn't
yeah,
they?
yeah, it was well used. And of course there were two coal yards down here. I can't remember, one of them belonged to Mr. Baker, but I can't remember who had the other one. Whether it was Gayford's. We had two coal merchants in Lavenham anyway at that time. And they used to trundle through Lavenham streets, sugar beet time, with tumbles of sugar beet, and take them into the goods yard and load it onto the railway trucks, take it through to Bury sugar beet factory.
Really?
Yeah. But in the end, of course, it all went, didn't it?
True.
Which was a shame.
True.
Yeah.
Well, it happened all over England.
It certainly
didn't
did. Yeah.
And what about? I mean, you talked about the army and the Air Force, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there were lots of barracks, weren't there, in Lavenham?
Yeah. Well, you see, the first influx of people we had were the evacuees, which came to Lavenham. They were billeted on. Well, they had a housing officer who was Mr. Harold Baker, I think, and he had to go round to find out how many bedrooms people had got, and then would say, well, you've got to have X amount or whatever. And then, of course, the next thing was the army, when they came in and took over Roper's Court, what is now Roper's Court,
Right.
and the press in Water Street as barracks. The NAFI was down in Water Street as well. And they took over other parts of the village as well. In between John Kemp's and the opening to Roper's Court, there were two houses and a shop.
Right.
The shop had been owned by the Snell family, and they were furniture makers, and they used to make all sorts of furniture. Anyway, just before the war, I think it closed down, and during the war, the army used to use that shop as a butcher shop, where they kept their and dealt with the meat that they supplied to the soldiers. But those buildings actually got burnt down in about 1950, I think it was.
Oh, right.
Huge fire it was. It had been taken over through after the war, of course, by an electrical shop, because it was an electrical shop. TVs, radios, and well, everything. And these blooming televisions were popping off, you know, and the whole lot burnt down.
Right.
But during the war, the barracks, they had started to knock part of Roper's Court down, and the side that was being knocked down was next to my dad bought the meadow next to it, and of course we used to go up there and watch them doing their square bashing them and all that, you know. and they'd come over into the meadow and put up these bags and run at them with bayonets, and very exciting for boys, you know.
Did it let you have a go?
No. But you see, that was the army, and then of course the Americans came, so there were a heck of a lot of people around here in those days.
Yeah. It would be a lot bigger then than it is now. I mean, we've got 1800, haven't we,
Well,
now? The village, you know, the sort of area and all the people that are the influx and the evacuees.
I don't think the village was any bigger, but the houses were more crowded, I think, and of course the barracks. I mean, a 3-storey. The Ropers Court was 3-storey. Yeah. And that was how it was in those days, really.
What did you think of the Americans? You know, because you're in a rural area with little exposure, really,
That's right.
and suddenly you get all these Americans coming.
That was very interesting, actually. Yeah, it's very interesting. There were some really nice chaps we used to get talking. And they weren't very old, you know. A lot of them were only about 18, 19.
Really?
Yeah. My sister got friendly with one, and he stayed Christmas with us, and he was really clever. He could hypnotise people, and we got company there, and he hypnotised their daughter, and she sat on a stool in the middle of the room, and he did this sort of, you know, that sort of thing, and there she went, and then he brought her around, and we told her she'd been hypnotised, and she said, "Oh, I haven't been hypnotised." So he said, "Well, we'll see, shall we?" So she sat her down again and hypnotised her again, told her to take her slippers off, put them over in the corner of the room, and then brought her back and sat her down again, then brought her around, you see, and he said, "Have you been hypnotised?" She said, "No." So he said, "Well, look at your feet then." And of course she had to believe it then, didn't she?
Gosh.
I'd never seen that before, and he was a brilliant conjurer. He could card tricks, and he could make money disappear, and he was really good, yeah. And we kept in contact with him for many years, but I suppose he's dead now. Yeah.
I mean, did people in Lavenham welcome these Americans?
Yeah, I think they did. I mean, the Guildhall was used. Well, originally in the war it was called the British Restaurant, and people could go up there for a bath. They had baths, 6 months a time, I think, to have a bath. And then they turned it into a sort of, they held dances there with the Americans, but not such rowdy ones as they were up in the church rooms.
So you had 2 dance halls then?
Yeah.
2 dance halls?
Yeah. Well, then we had a cinema.
Well, I know about your cinema, but I didn't know you had dance halls.
Yeah. We've had 3 cinemas in Lavenham, actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
Where were they then?
One in Water Street. The first one was in Water Street.
Is that where the where in Water Street? Where
the Swans.
Yeah, I knew about that.
And that was in the silent film days. There's a lady that worked for us. She used to play the piano there. Well, then of course they closed and became a hot gospel hall. The people who lived next door to us, they belonged to that, and they started to have meetings in there. My dad has told me this, in their house. He said, and one night I sat indoors, he said, I heard somebody shouting, "Look up, look up, look up." He said, and I reckon they were, well, I rushed out thinking there was something wrong, and of course they were having a prayer, weren't they? Shouting, looking. Yeah, anyway, that closed up, and the gentleman from Ipswich reopened it as a cinema, the Ideal Cinema it's called. And he used to have up-to-date films, whatever. Yeah.
So where were the other 2 then?
Well, they were the 2. The one was
the
same building.
Yeah.
The other one was in what was the what was it called? The picture gallery.
Oh, what?
Behind.
Yeah, I know.
You know him, behind near the chemist.
Yeah.
And that was Percy King, Mr. Percy King, who owned the garage. He set this up just at the beginning of the war. But the problem was that more and often than not used to break down halfway through, you know. Yeah, and I suppose he kept going probably during the war, and then it went. But no, so
It's a strange old village and a lovely village, isn't
but
it?
it is.
Yeah.
It's
And
very
you've been, I know you've said earlier,
Yeah.
how fortunate you've been to
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
in this village. And I say, you know, I didn't know anybody when I came to this village. And you were the first person,
Yeah.
Mr. Robinson,
Yeah.
who spoke to me when I came across from, I put David into school and I was walking down the road and I thought, oh, I'll just go in the post office. And that actually was my undoing because I always used to buy a cake from you as well. So I blame you. Now I've got to join Slimming World. But thank you ever so much, Fred,
No,
for that.
it's been a
It's been
pleasure.
really good. Thank you.
Pleasure. I hope it turns out okay.
Well, I don't mic off and edit some of these things out.
Eileen, Gay and I are going to chat with you all afternoon and drag up all those memories you have of when you were young.
Oh my goodness, it's a long time
Time ago, that we understand.
Sitting in a prime spot by the window where everybody walks by. Perfect.
Oh, it's lovely. I'm so lucky to have this, aren't I?
It's
Yes,
a great spot.
You know,
yes it is. So you were born in Lavenham,
next door.
next door, in where Charlie Hughes
Yes.
lived. Good heavens. Good heavens, yes,
Well,
yes.
they were, built just after the First World War.
Yes,
And I've got the original rent book, and it was 1922. I think it's April something, 1922. 10 shillings a week, 7 and 6 rent, and 2 and 6 rates. 7 and 6. Well, when next door, Enid, we were neighbours, the Hudsons, for
Yes.
65 years.
and then it was the district
nurse
nurse.
and midwife.
Yes.
How
It
convenient, yes.
And she came in 36, I think. And then eventually, well, so many people, family came, and if they were a bit asleep, perhaps they'd come in here. We were just one big happy family, and the next with the Hughes as well. And they were she died first, and then dear old Stan, and it was bought by, what was her name? I can't remember her name now.
Nor can I.
Anyway,
It's not important.
no, it isn't. She had it all altered, everything, all this bit built on and whatnot. And then I met her one day up on the marketplace. She was working in London, She was what I'd call a bit of a half-flyer into insurance and all that sort of thing, going abroad and that sort of thing. Anyway, I didn't quite know what to do. She said, "Oh, Eileen, I'm putting the house on the market." I said, "You're what?" She said, "Yes. I find I'm getting too old for this backwards and forwards," she said. So I said, "Well, you're thinking it would be across the road, Who are they on the marketplace?"
Saunders.
No, she said, with Burr. Well, I saw it in the paper that week, just a little bit with all the others, about this house. And then the following week, it was in the free paper, it was quite splurge about it, all about this house, Victorian, I think, and all this sort of. I thought, well, that's all wrong. So I rang him up and told him so.
Well done.
I said, I've lived here all my life. I was born next door. I said, and I've got the original rent book. I said they were built as council houses by Cosford. I said, and they were 7 and 6 was rent and 2 and 6 rates, 10 shillings a week. So we didn't put it in again.
So anyway, in your younger days, you went to Lavenham School.
Yes, I did.
School on the hill, high school they call it, don't they? and father had the smithy in.
Well, my grandfather took it over. It came from Lavenham.
Yes.
And his father, he came from Breton, that's right, originally from Rattleston, and he took it over, I think it was in 1870 something or 60 something, I'm not quite sure exact date, and they continued there.
And it's always been in the middle of Water Street, halfway
Always.
down.
My great-grandfather bought it, not the premises, not the building, but the business.
Yes.
And put his son, my grandfather was the eldest son of 10 children, I think, in, you see, that's where they were and worked. And my goodness, didn't they work long hours?
Yes.
Oh dear. I remember my father saying once, it was a very bad winter and time, and his father got him out of bed about 4 in the morning because they had to frost nail
The horses. Yes.
before they could go out to work. And he worked all day. And Auntie Lou, that's Fred's, my cousin Fred's mother, you know, she's since died, my father said. He took him some lunch and had to sort of feed him because they were on. And then this man down at Brent Ely, is it in the mill?
Yes.
Came up and said, could they go and frost nail this other horse because they've got to go out early in the morning. And Frederick said he couldn't take his bicycle because the roads were so bad. He had to walk down with his tools on his back and did what had to be done. I never got paid for that one.
No, I think it is.
That's right.
So, in the long term, you became a hairdresser.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
Well, you know, Mr. Percy Green came before the war and did a lot of work in Lavenham, didn't he?
Yes.
Restoring. And he lived in, what is it, Prentice Street. What's the place down there?
Woolstaples.
Woolstaples. And that's when they were going to put the electricity on. And he wanted to pay for it to go underground. He didn't like poles. And I think the story goes that they put one sort of in front of his house, so he left. But his secretary was Jack Osmond. Did you ever meet him?
I knew Jack. Yes.
He was my first boss.
Yes.
And he had what is now Roper's Court, only it wasn't, it had been finished, you know, but late in 1928, was it?
I don't know.
We were talking about your hair salon.
Yes.
What would be a typical hairstyle of the time? What would you be doing or learning to do if you were still an apprentice? What would the hairstyle be like of a typical lady living in Lavenham?
Oh, well, it's just like anywhere else. You did Marcel waving in those days with a high.
Is that difficult?
Well, you got used to it. You mustn't burn the hair, scorch the hair. You had it on a little stove, you know.
Was it connected up to the electricity
Oh,
then?
no. You had
Tongs or something?
That's right,
Yes.
you had to do that.
Would they be coal-fired or
No.
eat them in the coal?
Oh,
or-
no. You had, there was a little thing, stone thing, that you just put them on, lay them on, and then did one and two. So one was heating while you did the wave.
Do people have perms as well?
Yes, Eugene
So you'd
was
have
the perm.
quite sort of
It was
tight hair.
a guinea. Shampoo and set was 2 and 6pence. Haircut was 1 and 6pence. Children a shilling. I don't think there's anything in between, was there?
Did people have colour in those days?
No, not like. Well, I suppose they did, but not the same. We didn't do anything. I started my career in Barbara Peever's kitchen.
Yes.
I've told you that,
Yes.
haven't I? I shall have to find this because I have got a photograph of
Oh,
Jack
that would be
Osmond
interesting.
standing by the outside because it was very beautifully done because he did do work
Yes, he was a clever old boy, wasn't he? Yes.
So do you think it was a good thing? Were you glad you became a hairdresser?
Well, I always wanted to be a nanny,
Yes.
and I suppose it was difficult anyway. My father did a lot of work for Jack Osborne, and he got to have an apprentice, you see.
Mm.
So my father wondered if I'd like it, and I went up and had my hair cut, and I thought, because it was really a beautiful salon, and so that's how it all happened.
And you're not allowed to talk about people's
No.
secrets that they tell you.
I'm amazed at the gossip that goes on in the hairdressers now.
Yes.
Becky across the road used to tell me, she used to go up here, and she used to tell me, you weren't allowed to do that. I had to have an indenture, you know, my father had to pay so much. And I got 2 shillings a week the first year, and 2 and 6 the second year. And then I got 15 shillings, and I thought it was ever so well. And my mother took it off and put it away. And then I went to Berwick.
Mm. But I expect the job was much the same.
Oh,
People wanted
yes,
the
it
same
was.
kind of style.
Yes, oh yes, too. Yes, it was.
Mm.
Yes, it has changed. Well, I don't see much styling in it nowadays, the way that some of them look and where it's
Don't talk to me about it.
So do you think, did the war change your job very much? Did you still have access to all the chemicals and whatever you might have needed for perms and things?
Well, you had Eugene, well, that was the thing. Yes, we had those, you know, they came.
It didn't make any difference to that side of things?
No.
So you went to Taylor's, did it? Was it Taylor's?
Right.
Yes, in Bury. Did you go on to Felicia after that?
No, I went to Moorings, which was in Guildhall Street.
Yes.
I came home, I had to come home and look after my mother for a while. And then a friend whom I knew, and also she knew Mrs. Foreman, was wanting someone, and she said, we know it. So I was there for quite a long time. That was in Guildhall Street.
Mm.
And then my Mr. Smale, he was the Eugene rep. He was like a father to me, really. I think you're silly. You've been doing all this for other people. You should have your place for yourself. And eventually I did, in Miss Gate Street. And when it happened.
So were you there when we had the American invasion then?
Oh, it was here, yes.
Yes.
And I still hear from them.
Do you?
You see that photograph up there?
Yes.
Len on the right, that's his daughter and granddaughter. We're still in communication with so many of them. I still keep in touch with them. Isn't it wonderful?
Oh, it is.
All these years.
Yes. And in Bury, I suppose, because there was no end of Americans in Bury, weren't
There
there?
were a lot of there, yes.
Yeah.
I used to help at night when out of canteens or
Yes.
do that sort of
Yes.
thing, help do all sorts of things
Yes.
like that.
So they were welcomed, were they? They were made very welcome.
Oh, I think they were. They were here, weren't they?
Well,
You don't know.
Well, I know because I was in Bury at the time.
Oh,
you see.
were you?
Yeah, I lived in Bury at the time.
Oh, did you? Oh, yes.
So I think the girls welcomed them, didn't they?
Yes.
Any stories? Any stories?
Well, I don't know. I suppose there were lots, weren't there?
Yes.
Because they used to come here. My mother always had open house too, you know. And
Like you do, actually.
I suppose I've got it off.
Yes.
And oh yes, we've got. Well, then we also had the army because they took over the factory at the outbreak of war. They were stationed there, and the house. What do they call it? House now. Next to there was a salon, and then the house, Rober's house. They had that commandeered that. I think the sergeants, and also the one up here. As you go into Deacon's Close, that one, that was the sergeant's mess.
Was it?
But really like a big happy family, you see. There were the Hudsons. I forget who was before the Hudsons. Oh, the Mortlots did live there. And the Moore, Molly Moore and her mother.
Did she before she moved up the road?
Yes, because Mabel died and left her the house.
Did she? Yes.
Yes. And then that's when Enid came as our district nurse and midwife. And Mr. and Mrs. Davis, he was the headmaster here. And he was retired in 39. and I think they were worried who was being put between us. So Mr. Davis said to Frederick, my father, well, you always wanted this, but he just picked into getting it at the beginning, you see. So I think Mother said to Mr. Fairchild, who was the rent collector, and lived with Molly Moore's, what was it, Mabel Moore, about it. So he said, well, I don't see any reason why not, Mrs. Huffy. We'll still have a house to let, so we just moved that one. You can imagine doing that these days.
Yes, yes. A lot of red tape.
Yes, there would be. And Nellie's, you know, dear Nellie, who was 103 when she died,
Yes.
her parents came and lived next door. They were living up here. I think, do you remember where the Snell's house was?
I know, that's about before my time. I remember the Snells.
Yes,
Yes.
you know,
Yes,
before they had the fire there, didn't
yes,
they?
yes.
And they were living there at the time because he was a guard on the railway, on the boat train from Harwich to London.
Yes.
I mean, I can remember the Swan. In fact, I've got photographs of it. When it had wooden gates at the front, and you know, go through. I mean, it was an inn, you see, so the horses used to go through and round into Water Street.
Wow.
And my mother was born where the Swan kitchens are today.
Well, they've rebuilt them now.
That was in where the fish boat, where Rudd's was.
Yes.
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 Mhm.
Because he was. You see, when the train stopped running, they didn't want the Wool Hall as convalescent home,
That's
did
right.
they?
No.
Because that was originally they were going to take that away, weren't they? I saw it before my time.
It was a railway convalescent home, was it?
Yes, but
Yes, all
prior
right. I knew
to
there was
that-
some-
In Lady Street. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it belonged to an old Mr. Howe, wouldn't? And I think they were going to sell it. In fact, I think they was going abroad. But then the people stepped in and stopped it. And Princess Louise wasn't the Queen Victoria's youngest daughter bought it. And it was given for the railway for their females people on the railway.
To convalesce.
Just a
Yes.
convalescent home. And Nellie used to cook there at one time.
That's right. She
That's
was.
right,
She was
yes.
the head person there,
Yes,
wasn't she?
was. Well, then, of course, when the railway stopped, there was no need for it. So that's when trust houses bought it. And my uncle was sitting in the middle, you see, so they wanted him out.
He stuck a little while.
He
Didn't
did, do you remember that?
I did.
He wasn't going, was he?
No.
But eventually he did. And, but what is called the, what do they call that room now? It was my grandfather's barn,
Yes.
where they used to smoke the herring and pluck, you know, do all that plucking. I've
McCallum
got a
room.
photograph.
Yes.
McCallum room, was it be?
No, I think it's
Yes.
the dining room. You know, it's the main
No,
dining
not,
room.
not the dining room, it's the other room. What is it
The
called?
Wool Hall.
Pardon?
The Wool Hall?
No.
No, dear, it's in the hall, in the Swan. Whatever is it called? It's not
It's a Suffolk room.
that's one.
Yeah.
It was the Suffolk room. It was my grandfather's barn.
Oh, really?
Yes, we used to do all the plucking and that, and he had a place where he could. They used to the herons. Clem Pierce. Remember
Yes,
Clem?
I remember the Pierces. Yes.
Yes, Clem. He used to go and collect a train, 8:15 train from Bury with the herons on. You know, came from Lowestoft in that time, in the season, and then they'd do them in the barn the next day. Well, they smoked them, didn't they?
They did,
Yes,
yes.
that's
Oh, here?
right.
Did they smoke them here?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Well, he was a fully fledged fishmonger and game dealer.
That's right. My grandfather was.
Yes.
So was my great grandfather in Sudbury.
Well, here we are. We've had a wonderful afternoon with Eileen, going back into all the past and memories that you've got. Lovely cup of tea, too many biscuits.
Thank you, Eileen.
And Gay has brought the ladies' ideas to you and
Yes,
as
yes.
things was, which I should never be able to do, would
Would
I?
you?
No.
I don't know.
Well, thank you so much. We've enjoyed it, haven't we,
Yeah,
Gay?
very much.
Well,
Yes,
enjoyed
yes.
it too.
And thank you,
Come
Mike.
Again.
Okay, thank you.
We'll finish it.
So, we're pleased to have amongst us this evening a distinguished pilot and officer of 323 Squadron based nearby. He's kindly agreed to come along tonight to address you on a couple of important subjects. Please welcome Squadron Leader Winston Smythe. Shift to attention and pay attention.
I said that, yes. Right, you chaps back, can you hear me? Very good now. Good evening, troops. Your CO has sent me along here to talk to you about concentration and security. To that end, I have chosen present duties from the Technical Memorandum, the TM for short. The first involves a pilot officer, Prue, a fictional character identified by the capable chaps at Punch magazine. Nice chap, but a bit of a buffoon, who gets everything wrong in order for the TM to explain what is right or correct. Here then is the story of P.O. Prue. This is the tale of P.O. Prue, now in hospital in Frue, who, though industrious and keen, the type to keep his buttons clean, earned for himself a bit of fate because he could not concentrate. Although he always tried his best to be efficient like the rest, he simply hadn't got the skill to concentrate on cockpit drill. He tried mnemonics, used to sit for ages memorizing it, but once inside the airplane, he just forgot it all again. The intercom, the airscrew switch, airscrew pitch, the warning indicator switch, the flaps, the elevator trim, well, one and all alike to him. He happened then in course of time to muddle up this pantomime, though whilst coming into land one day in what he thought the usual way, he accidentally pulled the latch that jettisons the exit hatch. It quite surprised him when he saw his gunner vanish through the floor, then hurtled downwards through the air to burst inside the signal square. Poor P.O. Prue in pensive mood forgot to check his altitude, and at 100 miles an hour he cannoned off the water tower. No down an orderly parade, and then hit the deck and ricocheted right through the mess wherein a bunch of hospitals were taking lunch. Imagine then the screams and groans, the crunching sound of splintered bones, the shattered glass, the ruptured beams, the tangled mass of twisted seams, the debris scattered everywhere. It was a terrible affair. When all was clear, they took the dead and heaped them in the tractor shed. They counted them and found at length that fully half the ration strength were incapacitated or revolting messes on the floor. From midst the havoc he had wrought, they dug Prune from his juggernaut. The doctor hastily arrived and found at last he had survived. Next day, Group Captain Chumley Pym severely reprimanded him, a punishment both wise and just, for pilots in the service must, lest they should share P.O. Prune's fate, be capable and concentrate. Subject to security, uppermost in all our minds in the dark days of war. Recognizable to you all as 10 little Indians, the TM has adapted this visit into 10 little pilot boys for the purposes of showing the importance of keeping mum. 10 little pilot boys, one shot a fancy line, 5th columnists were listening, then there were 9. 9 little pilot boys, one had a heavy date. The gal was paid by Germany, and then there were 8. 8 little pilot boys, and one used a phone to Devon. The line was an open one, and then there were 7. 7 little pilot boys, one thought his drinks he'd mix. He talked too much when he was tight, and then there were 6. 6 little pilot boys in a West End dive. One showed off to a newfound friend, and then there were 5. 5 little pilot boys discussing fighter law, one discussed it much too loud. Then there were 4. 4 little pilot boys, one posted overseas. He talked about news would pass across to France. Then there were 3. 2 little pilot boys, eager for some fun, one spoke about his next day job. Then there was 1. 1 little pilot boy, his mother's favourite son, She showed his letters to her friends, and then there were none. 10 little pilot boys have gone into obscurity for paying no attention to that vital word, security. All the little pilot boys are wiped clean off the map, because some people will not learn to shut their bloody trap. I hope this has been as useful to you as it was to me as a young pilot. Now, good luck, go out, give them hell.
This is a meeting between Bill Eadie, David Deacon and myself, Hugh Howlett. The date is July 2013, which by coincidence is the 70th anniversary of when the American forces came and set up their airfield at Lavenham. Now Bill and his family lived on the farm which was requisitioned by the Royal Air Force for the American Air Force, and he has a marvellous fund of information, knowledge and stories about that time. David, in his position with the parish council, had very good contact with the Americans who came to visit the airfield after the war. And we'll start with Bill. And Bill, you lived on the edge of the field.
Yeah, I was born there, and I was brought up there, and I had all the war years up there, and they were some of the happiest days of my life. The Christmas I had with the Americans, I've never had one like it in England. I'd got everything, and I brought everything, and I'd done everything.
Yes.
So I always remember that Christmas.
Yes.
Was it Christmas 44, 45, was it?
Yes, because I was only there one Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I remember being with that because when we was at school, they gave a party to the children at school, and then older children came up to the airfield. I was too young to come to the airfield, so we had a party in the school what the Americans gave us.
Oh, I know I went to their different parties on the airfield because I didn't have to say anything. I mean, they just said to me, "You'll come tonight," and that's all I ever knew. I mean, I never knew the people, never knew nothing.
No.
But the Americans, to me, was a wonderful race, and I don't know. I learned a lot about them because half of them what was in the forces was hobos. They'd only lived in old tin shacks on the prairies. Well, that's what there was a good American and a bad American.
That's the same everywhere, Bill.
Yeah. So that was my idea of the Americans, but they was a beautiful batch of people, and I can see them now as I come home with them old aircraft. I mean, I'd jump out of that if I could jump out, and I'd lie on the ground and kiss the ground to say I was back in dear old England.
Yes, marvellous.
Yeah, because a lot of the time up there was something like about 2,000 people up there, or 2,000 servicemen or more, wasn't it, Bill?
Well, yes, I would think it was over 2,000. I don't really know. I never got to know all the airfield because that was a big piece of ground.
It stretched over quite a big area. If you look at the maps of it, it covered quite a big area,
Well,
didn't
that's
it?
what I was saying.
Yeah,
I'd started in Shimpton and Cockfield, and I'd ended up there the other side of Lavenham.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. The first thing I remember is when I was quite young, lived at Bury, and we used to drive through Alpheaton to get to Sudbury through the village.
Yeah.
And they suddenly built a bypass, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
if they done roads I got today, there'd be no trouble. That's the best bit of road about here for donkeys.
You talk about building the roads and that, and they came as serving personnel in 43, but there was obviously a contingent of people up there, both American and English, building the airfield. How long were they building it? About a year or something?
About a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Halifaxes, and I've seen Lancasters, and I've seen Spitfires, and all come down on that aerodrome. If I was in trouble and they'd come down.
Yes.
I see 2 crash up there.
Yeah.
Head just like motors on a car. There was
There were mainly B-17s up there, weren't there? Most of the time.
Oh yes. And that man that spoke to what hang, I suppose they're still in the Swan Hotel.
What, General Castle?
Yeah.
Yes.
I knew him, look, I know you.
Oh, right, yeah.
He'd walk about the aerodrome with me.
Because he led a big raid, didn't he?
That's when he was killed, Christmas Eve.
Because that was one of the biggest raids they done, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was over 2,000 aircraft went in there.
I know when I've talked to people who served, men who served, I'm talking about latter years, they said that they would be up in the air for a couple of hours or more before they even headed out.
Yes, just a grouping,
If you read that book, I sort of read bits and pieces of it. They had different places up there. I don't know if I got a signpost.
Parking spot.
And they met at this place.
Yes.
And that's how they used to go off.
Yes.
Because this Frederick Castle, I think there about him, he controlled Lavenham, Waldingfield, Ruffin,
Rattleston.
Yes. He controlled them all.
There was about 6 or 8.
Round about here, yes.
Because during the war you could only go about 8 miles in any direction in this area, and you came across an airfield.
Well, I lived in Bury, and I mean, like you say, we used to cycle out to watch them coming in and going out, as boys.
We used to stand up on the airfield of a night and look out there over what we call clap style, and we could see the Lancasters going into London.
Yes.
I've often heard people talk about the church tower here being a sort of like a beacon, but when I spoke to Americans, they said they didn't use it as a navigation point, but they was always eternally grateful to see. They knew they were home. I've spoken to 1 or 2 ex-pilots who said that once they saw that, they knew they had got far to go.
I mean, I only wish I'd have known at the time when the war was over, for one thing, I could have had them flying jackets. And that. But I daren't touch them. There was too many police watching on you. But now, I mean, I would have kept by somewhere out of sight.
I've heard American servicemen as well talk about when they used to come down the village, down the Burma Road.
Yeah. Well, I could see them who named it Burma Road.
I wonder why that is, because I thought that looked like Burma then, going through the wood or something.
Well, that was rough, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Still is.
They used to come back up airfield and I caught that bloody stinging nettles.
Because that was a shortcut, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. I wasn't supposed to go that way, but...
they could creep out the back door, so to speak.
Yes. But, no, they've got a law of their own.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I suppose you've got a lot of young men, as we said earlier, ranging from 19 up to about 30. They were full-blooded young men, and they didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow.
Of course they did. They didn't know if I was going to be here.
No, absolutely.
No, so they must have changed the ways of life around a bit. I would imagine there's a few ladies who remember him.
Oh,
We were talking.
Well-
Sorry, Bill, carry on.
over on the actual landing field up there, that was just on the outskirts. That wasn't in the wire runways and that. There was a big straw stack.
Oh yes.
And
Guess
in
what's
that,
coming?
in that straw stack was a little hole, and there used to be a girl come in there every morning. It was plenty good.
Did you have a commission on the store stack?
I can see the queue waiting to get in there.
Oh dear.
Well, I tell you, I can talk better today because I know who you are and
Yes.
you know me,
Yes.
and this is what we really want.
Well, that's right, absolutely, Bill. You see, I think that what we're doing here now is we're putting down history, really.
Yes, yes.
And it's just good that it is the 70th anniversary of
Yeah,
it, and it brings
yeah.
things
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
mind,
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Because I cleared that there hangar, what was right near the wheel, and there was nothing in there, and I went out with their buses, as I called them, them big old lorries. I went everywhere, and I got every girl that I could find. This
Well-
is right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I suppose putting it into perspective as well, these girls, that was an exciting time for them because
They loved it.
well, the Americans
Loved it.
have got things they'd never seen before,
Yeah.
like clothes and stuff like that.
Oh, yes,
And
nylons.
nylons, yeah.
particularly.
A lot of them.
And they got money as well.
Yeah, they've got the money. A lot of the Americans never woke up on this base the next morning. They woke up anywhere. I know it's right. And along that road from Elms up to the lodge, up sort of like a private road, you couldn't.
Go on.
You couldn't go a yard, but what there was a French letter hung on the beach, on the bench. So we knew that had a happy note. You know, we see something through that war, didn't we?
We did.
We
Yeah,
see things
yeah,
what
yeah.
we'll never see no more.
No. And
Well, and we don't particularly want to, do we,
No,
Bill?
no, I don't.
No.
no.
I don't know what. I don't pay to think about it. I
Right.
don't know what a war would be like now.
Well, not in the same way. We're talking about certain things and experiences I remember, because I lived down the other end of the high street. I remember that vehicles used to come to deliver to the air base, American vehicles, and on one occasion, or more than one occasion, I saw coloured gentlemen, coloured servicemen.
Yeah.
They didn't serve up on the base, did they? Not coloured
No,
people.
no.
But they operated the supplies, didn't they?
Yeah.
And as
That's
a little,
what,
as a little 5-year-old, that was a new experience to see a coloured person.
Yeah. I often think about this. You see, I was 19 when war broke out.
Yes.
Yes.
I was 19, and within about 2 or 3 weeks, I was called up.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and I had to go up to Ipswich and have a medical, and I always remember they said, "You've passed, but we shan't take you for 6 months," because I was on agriculture.
Well, I think that's a point where we ought to just wrap it up and thank Bill very much for your great knowledge about the airfield. And
Cheers, Bill.
Cheers. Yeah, all the best.
All the best to you.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Hugh.
And thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Now, tell me, what are you doing with that recording?
You'll be on the 6 o'clock news tonight, Bill.
Right, to complement that first-hand view of the airfield, John Knight will present some photographs of the 487th Bomb Group, United States Air Force.
The United States Army Air Force, as it was known, came to Lavenham in February 44 and had left by 1945. And what I'm going to tell you about is about the 487th Bomb Group, And it's thanks to the 487th Bond Group Association that we've got the large amounts of information that we do have and that I've been able to use. There are books that belong to David upon the table at that far end of the hall. To the Americans, Lavenham was a small town, 12 miles to the south of Present Edmonds, which they heard had seen very prosperous times. This is the church that we've been hearing about, that they'd like to see, knowing that they were home safe again, the ones who flowed. When they arrived here, they were absolutely astonished that many of the buildings still dated from the 15th century. Early in the war, English engineers had been seeking suitable locations for airfields. The area between Lavenham and Alpheton consisted, as we know, of gently rolling farmland, that's what it says in the book, with widely dispersed farmhouses and cottages, so it met their needs. Construction began on a standard United States Army Air Force bomber airfield. The runways were arranged, as they still are, in a triangle. The British firm John Lane built the field in 1943. It had 50 hard standings, 2 large hangars, of which we've heard, and a perimeter track. There were Nissen huts all over the site, and rubble from the cities blessed by the Luftwaffe was used as hardcore for the runways. Station 137, as it was known, was handed over to the Americans on the 21st of March, 1944. The land had belonged to David Alston, and it's thanks to him that parts of Station 137 remain for us to visit. John Pawsey, his great-nephew, is the current owner, and Lee Howenstein from New Hampshire stayed with the Pawseys in this last year, maintaining the link between the village and the 487th Bomb Group. Here we've got a picture of Elizabeth and David's wife, with Neil in her arms, and Jean and John and Elizabeth. The first Americans arrived here on February the 3rd, 1944. And I want you to pay particular attention to him. They always wore their hats at cocky angles, didn't they? And they come from High Wycombe, where they quickly got to know every pub. There they were friends and neighbours with the locals, and some even had their families there, so they viewed coming to Lavenham with mixed emotions. Because that was the high street, and there's an American wobbling outside the Swan, and he's only just arriving. A diarist writes, life in Suffolk was indisputably dull. Wycombe came to be looked upon as some sort of paradise. The first Sunday afternoon in Lavenham was disillusioning to everyone. Their guidebook called it a haunting, half-timbered dilapidation, and not one of us disagreed. Would it have stood up to a good Kansas wind, we wondered. You could drink tea in Ye Shopping, which was older than American, and you could get a good 5-shilling meal, 5 shillings in the Swan, which had been an inn for 500 years. At the Swan, we were apt to think what an odd thing we Americans really were. We were Germans, Mona, Schade, and we were Irish, O'Connor, and Italian, Bertoncini, and French, Boulanger, and Benoit. And maybe there was even an Englishman or two among us. We could sing Irish songs, or converse in broken German, or talk about life in Italy before the war. But most of us felt that we were American. Having got here, they like to relax. I suppose that you might know some of these. This is a dance in the Officers' Club. I'll say no more. On the 25th of August, many of the personnel on the base, enlisted men as they were called, and the officers, went to Nettishore to enjoy a performance by Glenn Miller and his orchestra. The United Service Organisation there, like ENSA in Britain, for British troops, made shows available. There was one called Off Limits, and that was, to quote, jam-packed. And Miss Gloria Clare, a nightclub singer from Boston, I'm sorry I don't have a picture of Gloria, nor do I have a picture of Miss Pat Sargent, an actress from Chicago. These were the ladies of the show, and they, to quote, received resounding applause with each appearance on stage. They had movies to see. The quality varied greatly. A film called Bathing Beauty was shown on the 24th of October 1944, and it was reported, "It is amazing that we still have our theatre." Going to the pub, as we've seen, was another favoured pastime. Many of the men got bicycles to visit Bury and Lavenham. Those walking would use the infamous illegal Burma Road. The MPs didn't like them walking down there. And they would take the Burma Road across the fields to Lavenham. On November the 15th, co-pilot Leo Holiday wrote, "This would have been an ordinary rainy day off, with a trip to Lavenham for tea. Only Bill and I decided to walk round the village. Then we decided to stay for supper at the Swan Hotel. We played darts till 1900 hours, then had an excellent turkey supper with Brussels sprouts and boiled potatoes." They were on the menu that we saw earlier. "We stepped out into the darkness and cold rain. Luckily, I bought a tail light at King's Garage." Again, we saw King's Garage sign earlier today. And so we had a dim light by which to stumble back through the mud. Again, we fell for the old shortcut idea, and so we fumbled through soggy, ploughed fields, wet hedges and ditches all the way back. Bill would hang on to me while I probed around with my leg to find the bottoms of ditches. That was the officers' mess, largely constructed in the book by recycled materials, so nothing is new. This is the PX base for enlisted men. It's the PX stands for Post Exchange, and it was like English nothing. It took $18,000 a week. And there was a barber shop there with English staff, a tailor's shop, a bar, a photographic service, a war bond sales counter, an overseas order counter where they could send things back home, and a postal counter too. PX officer Lieutenant Irving Draper even established a soft drinks bar with chairs and tables made from bomb crates. I'm sorry, I'm out of the board a bit. What we've got here is the other side of the coin. This is life in the Nissen huts, and these are enlisted men. These men are a ground echelon, and they're enjoying the warmth of what the Americans describe as a pot-bellied stove. These men help to keep the base running 24 hours a day, with the great peaks in activity associated with missions taking off and coming back from mainland Europe. They might have been armament personnel, or drivers, or cooks, or medics, or firefighters, or flying control personnel, or mechanics, or clerks, or even military policemen. What we can see here are B-24s, known very well to Hugh as Liberators, and they're on the perimeter track near to Elms Farm. And we can see that they're waiting to take off, and there's also a control tower, parts of which still exist, by the clump of trees there. So these boys were taking off for Germany or France, and some of them are coming back. This is a B-24, a Liberator, that they call Treacherous Wabbit. They obviously got a good sense of humour, but they all the aircraft tended to have names. Some of them are more repeatable than others, but there's a full list in David's book. These aircraft that we see taking off were manned by people like these. The back row, that's Roy Webber. He was the co-pilot. Robert Rogers was the bombardier. Lester Weiss was the navigator. And Olin Huff was the pilot. Lawrence Geyer was the ball turret gunner. Jean Burridge was the engineer. And Arthur Silver was the waist gunner. That's Robert Ball, the main radio operator, and that is Cosme Marquez, who was a tail gunner. Lester Weiss was killed on May the 11th, 1944. He's buried in the American Military Cemetery in Normandy. These two, the man on the left is Lieutenant Colonel Ern Lay, and the man on the right is Lieutenant Walter Dewar. They were photographed in Lavenham after they made it back, after an adventurous escape from France. They'd been shot down, and they made it across enemy-held territory to meet the advancing American army, and they made it back here and continued their war from here. These are just a few of the pictures and stories that you can find in the 487th commemorative book, which we have copies of. If you don't know other things that we have, you can read about. Can I have some light, please? You can read about the Americans from David Norman's perspective, and from Daphne's and other people's perspectives in the books, which are still available. The rare unsigned ones are cheaper than the new ones, but these are available if people want to get them, and they make, so I'm told, really nice Christmas presents. Thanks very much.
John, and can we just once again say thanks to the 487 Bond Group Association for their input into that piece.
Well, I'm here with Jane Orbell. Thank you very much for agreeing to do an interview with us for the Our Memories project. And you were quite a young girl when the war ended.
Well, I was just saying I have to reveal my age now because I was just 1 year old when the war broke out. And
about 7 when it...
yes, I think I just had my 7th birthday. Wow. Yes.
And your father, of course, was very active in Lavenham.
He was. He had obviously got the business to run and had never been in the front, in the regiments himself, but he always played his part in a big way, I think, in Lavenham.
He took on several roles, didn't he?
Yes, well, I don't know whether he was chairman of the parish council, but he certainly was involved with the parish council. And he was in charge of evacuees, finding homes for them when they were...
the billeting officer.
The billeting officer, yes.
And what else did he do around the village?
And one of his jobs was to go around the countryside checking on where arms had been left.
Gosh.
And obviously there was a blackout, but he knew the country so well, it didn't worry him at all. He knew where he was, even if it was dark. And I don't really know, at the time, I don't think I knew anything about it at all, but this is what I've learned. Well, of course I didn't when I was that young, but
And he was responsible for evacuating Bolton Street?
Oh yes, that was always a big story in Lavenham, about how the bomb had dropped and obviously caused terrific commotion. It didn't go off, of course, and everybody had to be cleared away from their homes. And there was one person who said, I don't know where I'm going to go. And my father said, well, you've got a brother in Prentice Street. He said, I haven't seen him for years.
Oh, wonderful. Oh dear. And also your mother was quite involved as well.
Well, obviously she was very busy bringing all out, you know, she had one child after the other during the war. But, so one of her jobs was to distribute the concentrated orange juice and the cod liver oil.
It must have been quite a luxury.
Well, I think there was a rationing according to how many children you had, and the children were all being encouraged to have this, but we ourselves never had the cod liver oil. She didn't believe in it, really. She thought we could live on, you know, what we were being fed without needing cod liver oil.
Well, I can still remember cod liver oil, and I hated it anyway. But, and the Guildhall, I understand your mother was quite involved with that.
Oh, you mean the American service? Well,
yes.
It was for the GIs.
Oh,
She
right.
always stressed that this club was...
So not for the officers?
No, not the officers. And she and Beth Alston and Steffi Thorpe and Bunty Widdicombe and one or two others, Eileen Huffey I think was involved, all used to run this session on one evening a week, I think it happened. I can't remember how many, I mean I don't know whether it was once a week or once a fortnight and what it was, but and they used to have talks and little concerts and bicycle rides and I don't know what else they used to do, but she thoroughly enjoyed it, and she, because she had taught dancing, used to teach them how to do ballroom dancing, which was very exciting. And when we, do you want the story about when we were...
Absolutely.
And Jessie and I, by this time, it must have been, I can remember this because I must have been about 4 or 5, that sort of age. And we used to have double summertime, so it was very light in the summer evenings. But we would be put up to bed early because she wanted to get off down to the Guildhall to join up with these Americans. And I can remember standing at the bedroom window with Jessie and watching her running down the road or going on a bike as happy as anything. I think she had a good time.
Oh dear, you must have felt very put out being left behind.
We did. We felt very cross about it.
And you used to like going shopping in the village. There were some characters.
Yes, yes. Well, I expect most people remember all these different characters that there were in the village at the time, and they were also friendly. You see, when we went shopping, it was an outing, an afternoon's outing to go down and visit all these different people.
Aww.
And they were all our friends, of course.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's lovely. And you went to a private school in the village?
Yeah, there used to be a little dame's school in the Legood's house. They were the doctors. And John Legood was about 6 months older than me, something like that. And so they'd set up this little school for him and a few of us around there were probably not more than 10 or 12. And I used to go there.
And you obviously liked it there? Did you ever feel you'd rather go to the school with everyone else?
Well, at 5 or 6 you don't really think about it. You don't know about it really, do you? You just go where you're told to go. We had a happy time though.
Yes.
We used to play in the garden. We weren't there very long. It was all over by lunchtime.
Oh, I like the sound of that. And the Americans arrived in 1943, and obviously that changed everything in Lavenham.
Yes, I suppose it did. I mean, I can't obviously remember before 1943.
No.
Really.
You can remember your gas mask, though.
Oh yes, I can remember the gas masks, which used to be kept in the cupboard and a drawer in the cloakroom at home. And they were really playthings. We had to know how to put them on. We had Mickey Mouse ones, you see. I mean, fortunately, we never had to use them properly.
No. No.
And Lionel, when he was born, he was, as a baby, given a huge I can't remember what colour it was or anything else, but it looked awful to us as children. Putting Lionel in there.
Oh.
But I think apart from just experimenting and making sure we knew what to do if it was really necessary, we didn't ever have to use them.
Oh, well, that's, we're thankful for that anyway.
Yeah, thankfully. We had a cellar too underneath, built out from the side of the house.
Oh, right.
So that you could get
This is
down.
Mill House.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if there was a siren, if there was a warning that there might be trouble, we were meant to get down into this dugout place. And I think we went once or twice, but my mother found it so uncomfortable that we didn't bother after that. You know, we never really needed to do it. But of course, you see, where our house was in direct line from with the American planes going
Oh, of
overhead.
course, yeah. Yeah. And you also told me about a memory you have of early one morning waking to hear a strange noise.
Oh yes, I did, and I can still remember that. It was a summer morning, and suddenly I woke up to hear this noise, which I didn't recognise. We were used to the bombers going over and all that, but this was a different noise. So I jumped up onto the windowsill and saw this doodlebug going by, and then the light changed in the tail, which was very exciting. And I shouted to Jessie to come, Jessie, quick, come and look at this, it's a doodlebug, and she was a bit frightened. And I said, don't worry, it's only a doodlebug. And at that point my mother came in and she said, get down from there. So that was the end of the story.
Oh, right. And
it crashed at Clockfield.
Oh, it crashed at Clockfield?
Yes, it did.
Oh, wow. Mm. And your Uncle Lionel, of course,
yes.
was
well, you
very
see,
dear to you.
I've shown you the picture of
Yes.
me with Uncle Lionel, but I can't remember that, of course, because I was too young to really remember it. But then he disappeared, and we, as children, couldn't remember him except as you know, Uncle Lionel was revered in the family as being this great soldier. And every night we used to say our prayers and say, please God, bring Uncle Lionel home safely.
Oh.
And then one day, at the end of the war, he did come home safely, looking very yellow and thin.
Really?
Well, because he'd been in the Japanese prisoner of war camp.
Oh, right. How awful. Yes, and you've got a lovely programme from the Swan Hotel of a welcome home dinner, was it?
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Didn't have wasn't very exciting fare, was it? But
no, but they obviously had a great, and you know, for years and years, well, all his life, he used to come back to the what's it called? Minden Day.
Oh, right.
Because it was the Suffolks, and they had a reunion every summer,
right,
in July, and he used to come back year after all his life. It meant such a lot to him, you know, to get back amongst the people he'd been with.
Yeah. And then the war ended, and there was a big party that you missed out on.
Oh, well, I had measles. I can remember lying in the garden up at Mill House, hearing the church bells ringing and knowing that everybody was having, and my mother had got, my sister Sue had just been born, so she was out of the way. We weren't allowed to see her. We had nannies or somebody looking after us, so that we weren't being in contact with the new baby. And I can remember sulking and being in the garden on the lawn and thinking everybody was having a good time, and I wasn't allowed to go.
Oh, what a shame. Oh, well. And also you went up to the Alpheton base?
Oh yes, because when the war was all over, the Americans had a wonderful big party for all the Lavenham children. I was just old enough to go. And each child was put into the care of one of the airmen.
And do you remember yours?
He was called Danny.
Right.
Yes. And I was a bit shy and a bit frightened about going in this truck, because we all went in the back of a truck up to the base. And but he was looking after me all the time, so it was all right, and we all had a good time.
Did you get nice things?
Even we were given sweets and things that we hadn't had much of.
Lovely.
Because, you know, nowadays children just go into a shop and buy sweets, don't they? But we never ever had the chance to buy sweets for ourselves because it was all rationed.
Yes, of course.
And it took a long time before we could actually
but
cycle down to Percy Walker and get a Mars bar or something.
But I don't suppose you knew that at the time.
No,
it was
because when you grow up with it, you
used
accept
to.
that that's what it is.
Mm,
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm. I'll tell you one thing which I didn't put down about, I don't know whether you want to know that. This Danny, who I was talking about just now, wrote to my mother after I was married even, I mean quite late, because a lot of these Americans kept coming back for reunions and kept in touch with my mother and various people they'd known in Lavenham at the time. And he wrote to me once when I was, it was over at Thurston Hall, I must have been in my 40s.
Gosh, he must have been
Yes.
in his, what, 60s then, by then?
Well, he must have been, mustn't he? Anyway, he asked about little Jane. He'd written to my mother and asked about little Jane.
Oh,
And then she, told him
oh.
that I was married with so many children and all that sort of thing. It was extraordinary how the Americans kept that connection going.
Yes,
So many of them.
So many did, yes. I mean, there aren't that
Mm.
many now to have the memories. But well, Jane, thank you very much. That's been really interesting.
We're going to do the quiz now. Okay, there are 15 questions. So we'll see how many you all got right. And there are 2 prizes. One is a lovely box of chocolates, and the other one is a week's ration. Courtesy of David Deacon. He'll come up in a minute, I'm sure, and tell us what the week's ration was, but he's sitting on my table here, and I have to say it doesn't look terribly appetising, but anyway. Okay, so I'm sure you've all sort of marked yourself out of 15, so I'll whiz through them fairly quickly. In what year did food rationing begin? Someone shout it out.
41.
39.
40.
It was 1940. In what year did food rationing finally... Sorry, I should have taken this up pretty last one. In what year did food rationing finally end? 54. Yeah, 1954. What country was Hitler born in? Austria. Yeah. Where was the Observer Tower in Lavenham?
There's Lane. I'm Bill Collins.
Oi! Okay, the next one, question 5. Anyone know what that mark is? Yeah, utility mark. Which 2 planes were the main ones used by the RAF? Hurricane and the Spitfire, yeah. Which country suffered most loss of life during World War II?
Germany.
Russia. Yeah, by far. What event brought America into the war? Pearl Harbor, yeah. Stockings weren't easily available, so what did ladies do to pretend they were wearing them? Yeah, right. What luxury sweet was made illegal in 1942?
Toffees?
It was ice cream. Provided by government in 1942. Okay, question 11. A saying in many countries said... Elroy was here. How many clothing coupons was each adult allowed per year?
What's Kilroy? I got it right.
36, yeah. Who was Winston Churchill's predecessor?
Chamberlain.
Yeah, Chamberlain. Which event brought World War II to an end? Yeah, atomic bombings, yeah. And the character at the bottom, question 15, lastly. What was he called? Chad, yeah. I don't know how even I do that.
Good morning. We're making another recording for the memory evenings, and this morning I'm talking to Arthur Sivens. Arthur is known to many people in the village as Dollar, and in fact his whole family was known as Dollar. His mother never had a name as most people knew her. She was always Dollar. Even his father was described as Old Man Dollar, and his brothers Freddie Dollar, things like that, but he's always known as Dollar. Hello Dollar, how are you?
Hello, I'm alright.
Yeah, welcome Claire, Dollar's daughter. She thought she'd come along to see if she can learn something and perhaps even put her father on the right track. As far as we're aware, you're the only evacuee still living in the village that was evacuated here for the Second World War. Do you know any others?
No.
No. And there was quite a number of evacuees, so did you think they all went back to London, or?
Not John Gurn, John Neal.
Yeah, John Neal, oh yeah.
He was-
yeah,
he was
Harry, we called him Harry.
That's
didn't we?
right.
Yeah.
He died about 4 years ago. He was probably the last one.
Yeah, but he didn't even live in the village, did
No.
he, at the latter part of his time? Where did he live?
Cornard.
Cornard, yeah. That's right. You're about the only two that I can recall.
Right.
Just going back to when you came down as an evacuee, you was obviously quite young, because I went to school with you. 4 years old, were you? Yeah. I went to school with you, and we went through Lavenham High School together.
We did, yeah.
All of our school time was spent at Lavenham. Can you recall any of the time when you come down? You know, when you was 4, was that a bit too young to remember?
Now, all I can remember in London, I can remember running up a street, but I can't remember the journey down to Suffolk, or on the train, or how we came down. My earliest memories is when I first came down, we was up Baker's Mill.
Right.
With my sister Louise.
Yeah.
There was a whole row of us, and we was all painted green for some reason or other.
Camouflage?
I don't know, it might have been something to do with like a disease or something.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well,
then I moved in with the Dacre. Top end of street.
Yes.
I always thought they were two sisters, but somebody said that was mother and daughter.
Yeah.
Then from there I went with Chris Aldous in the High Street.
Yeah.
But
What, with your mother? And
No, my mother hadn't come down then.
Oh, you was just on your own, was you?
Yeah.
That must have been a bit traumatic for somebody at 4
I was 4
years
years
old.
old,
Can you
yeah.
imagine that, Claire? You're at your age, kind of thing, yeah, 4 years
And
old.
I can't remember my mother coming down from London, but I can remember we all finished up on the Common, didn't we?
Yes, you lived in a house down the Common, didn't you?
That's
Yeah. What, your dad come down as well, or did he stay in London?
I think he was still in London, or still in the...
Yeah. Did your dad serve in the forces?
Oh, yeah, right. I think he spent most of
right.
his time.
Yeah.
You never see a lot of action, I don't think.
well, he might have had action of some sort, because what were you got, 4 brothers and sisters?
I've got 2 brothers.
Yeah.
I did have 2 sisters, but
Yeah.
Louise...
Yeah, she was always one. And did she come down with you at the time when you
She
came
did.
down? Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was just you and her came down?
Yeah.
Yeah, because your 2 brothers were born down here.
And
yeah, Jinx and
and
Freddie.
Sandra.
Yeah,
Sister.
oh, Sandra, yeah. So when you came, you got any recollections of being with these people? You know, did
I can remember.
Did you feel you was treated nicely?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Chris Aldous, I can remember, I used to go out and play all day and get all dirt on your knees. I remember she used to scrub my knees and I used to cry.
yeah. What? Because she was trying to look after you, wasn't she? Because that was quite an important thing to look after the evacuees.
Right.
Yeah. You spoke about John Neal. Is there any others you can recall not coming with you?
John Grundy. Something
Right,
with
yeah.
John Grundy.
Yes, I remember that name. I remember that name from school time.
Yeah, and Violet Simpson. Them 2 was always together. They used to go birds nesting like we all did in them times.
Yes.
I walked up the Bears Lane. I don't know who was with me. I can't think who was with me. But John Grundy and Violet Simpson came walking down the lane, and I knew they'd been birds nesting. So I walked up to John and I went like that on his pockets, and he put his hands in his pockets, all his eggs.
You'll have gathered quite quickly that Arthur came down here, or Dollar came down here when he's 4, but he's still got the Cockney bit about him. He's still got the Cockney accent about him and the Cockney way. And his mother was very much like that. Your mum was known as Dollar throughout all her time in the village, but she was a bit of a notorious character, but she was a very lovable person. She was well respected, but she was a bit of a comedian in her way. Yeah.
So you could mimic people, take their
their
voices.
Yeah. So what else do you remember about when you first come and you said you was painted green?
Well, I remember that. We all stood in the line, painted green. I don't know what it was for.
Yeah.
Scurvy or something.
Well, funnily enough, I saw a document a little while ago which came from what was the Cosford District Council about evacuees coming down, and there was some sort of concern about bringing illnesses and that with you. So perhaps perhaps that was some sort of delousing. Your daughter said that, not me. Yeah. So when you came down, and obviously you weren't here long, and then you started school here. Well, I mean, what can you remember about school? Because we went to school together.
Right. I can remember going to infant school, is it?
Yeah.
And I remember in the afternoons we used to lay down on camp beds and have a sleep.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, about in the middle of the afternoon.
Lay down and have a sleep.
Yeah, we used to probably was that before we started primary school then,
Probably,
you think? Yeah, I remember
like
that.
An infant type thing.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
age where you when you tied the bell up so it didn't ring.
Ah, that was a lot later. That was we was about 15 or 16 then. We knew the left school was just about.
Used to get up and tie a sack around the bell so when they ran it the next morning they didn't make a noise.
Yeah, perhaps people don't recall that, Arthur, but or Dollar I should say. When we were children, 5 to 9 in the morning, and at 1:30 or whenever it was, I can't remember now. But anyhow, at 5 to 9 in the morning, the bell used to ring for 5 minutes. So as you got warning to get to school, and if you didn't get to school by 9 o'clock, you went in the late book. One of the best jobs was to become late monitor, because at least you never got in the late book then. When we was at school, you got some photographs there showing when we was at school. We were on the allotment on one of those photographs, aren't we?
Can you get that on the screen, that one? That one.
Yeah, I think that's been around a bit, that one, but unfortunately, one or two of the old boys on there who we went to school with are no longer with us.
Chris is gone.
Yeah. Good child, he's dead, and he.
No. He's still alive, Ray.
Oh, Ray, is he?
Alive.
Oh no, because I'm getting mixed up with his brother.
Ted.
Yeah, one to the others. Yeah.
Ted.
Yeah. You might have noticed my little notebook, and that's only coincidence really. Somebody gave me this, and that's obviously a ration book, like done like a ration book. And that's my, you've got one, have you?
I can remember a ration book.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. What can you remember about food being on ration? Can you remember anything about that?
Yeah, powdered egg we used to buy.
Yeah, powdered egg, yeah.
Herbie Ruds.
Yeah.
Broken biscuits, all that sort of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. The rations were quite meagre in relationship to today, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, what we would probably get about a half a bar of chocolate. That's all right. Arthur's got a grandson working in the pub here, and he's trying to learn something, and might learn something he don't want to. Do you remember anything about sort of like sweets and stuff like that we had on ration?
Bacon, you was just allowed like 2 or 3 rashers, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was a week. That wasn't a day, was it?
Right, a week, yeah.
And sweets was about a quarter of sweets a week, wasn't it?
I remember going up to international stores and buying broken biscuits.
Yeah, I remember that.
And when Herbie Rudd had the fruit shop, you could buy specs, and all fruit they've got.
Oh yeah, that's
damaged.
right. Yeah, damaged fruit. You could buy that cheaper, or they used to sell that off ration or something, didn't they?
Yeah.
Do you remember anything else about rationing at all, or not?
No.
Well, of course, boys of our age, our clothes were on ration, of course, but it didn't worry us, did it? As long as we got something on our backs, that's all
my
that
mum used
mattered.
to buy my clothes from Team Branson.
Yeah.
Those little outfits, wasn't it? Market Lane.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of things used to happen when we were kids. What do you remember about sort of like playing and that when we were children?
I know we used to take time off from school, loads of us, and go scrumping, apples. When it was holiday time, like the 6 weeks holiday, Mum would never used to see us, do she?
No,
She'd put the starlies and the cakes in like a bit of a paper, and we'd go over the fields all day long.
We all used to do that. We out all day long, and of course combine today they go in with sort of 40-foot combines. They're in the field about an hour, and that's all over. Well, when we were children, they'd be in there with a 6-foot binder, and that would last for 2 or 3 days.
Get around the foil with a stick,
chasing rabbits, and they really used to eat in the pot, or sometimes you'd sell them. Yeah.
Well, Mother we used to live on rabbit, didn't we?
Root pie,
pie, the old girls would do.
Yeah. Rabbit pie, rabbit stew.
Yeah.
What else?
Root pie, pheasants.
Yeah.
Rabbits, hares, and like that.
Obviously, there was a time of great sort of change in the village, and a lot of things are happening. Do you remember the sort of, I said before we started the interview, we were talking about the Americans. They came in 43. What do you remember about that? Because we were about sort of 6 of them, weren't we? No, 5 then. Yeah. What do you remember of that?
I can remember. Well, I can't think what age I was, but we used to go up the, what's it, Hall Road?
Yeah.
Round the wood. That's when all the camps used to be up there.
Yeah.
And they used to give us sweets.
Yes.
And me and Barry Clark, a friend from London, we decided to go up there, and we nicked loads of the bottles, and these MPs in a, what do you call it?
American MPs.
American MPs. I remember seeing the hat with MP, big letters on the top of the head. They chased us in this Jeep, and we hid in the shocks.
Oh yeah,
the shoes when they used to stab them together. We hid in there, but that seemed like ages, like probably only minutes. And they picked us up, put us in the Land Rover, and took us down to Common, where we was.
What? And
I'd go with the old girl and tell us not to go up there anymore. I remember gas masks. We all had a little box of gas masks.
Yeah.
What was the plane that crashed just before we get to the railway line, the Hall Road?
It was cool.
A plane crash.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Me and John Neal. I can't think. There were 2 or 3 of us. We went up there. And with all these tracer bullets that long, all on clips.
Mm-hmm.
We got loads there. We had them over our shoulder. We were going to walk home with them, but the police came along and took them away from us.
Yeah, I remember a plane coming down up what we call up the Gull, up at Preston Road. We went up there.
Well, this one came down just before you get to the bridge, up the Hall Road.
Yeah, that might have been off the airfield. I can't remember. One of the B-17s, something like that.
I remember sitting in school doing what you do, and all of a sudden you'd hear a lump, and the ground used to shake, and something crashed.
Yeah. Just talking about school and talking about lumps and things like that. You remember when we used to sit in school at Baker's Mill, used to work, and they used to have that big old diesel engine keep bonking away all day long, and you would hear that, and that used to make the windows in the school vibrate like that, all the time. And you just think nowadays how things have changed. And your mum obviously didn't want to go back. No, bless her. She was an integral part of the village. Yeah.
Head chef at the Swan at one time, wasn't
she? Yeah. Do you can you remember any other sort of things about your mum? Because a lot of ladies in the village done things like sort of washing and that for the Americans. And
she used to lay people out when they would do. Well,
trade. She did. Yeah, she did, didn't she?
Yeah, they used to come and get dollar.
If somebody died, we're going to get dollar. I remember that. Yeah.
Our next door neighbour Coleman, when her husband died.
Yeah.
My mum, we lived next door. She went round to Lower Eight and that. She got this shirt to start to put on the old boy. Yeah. You can't do that. She said, that's a good shirt. That'll do for one of the boys. She used to lay all the bodies out.
Yeah, she did. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And have you got any sort of thoughts about your dad's time as an evacuee? I mean, what?
I think the only thing Dad's ever said, if he'd have stayed in London, he'd have probably been in prison.
Thankfully
he came down here.
What happened if I'd have stayed up here? I might have been inside, who knows?
Yeah. What, you mean to tell me then you run close to the law down here then?
I do a bit of poaching. I had a bad name for that, didn't I?
Yeah, well, you...
I used to love it.
Yeah.
Just get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Well, you used to keep dogs, didn't you? You used to have a dog?
I used to have loads of dogs, 3 kitch hares.
Yeah. And that must have been quite a change from a London boy then to become a poacher.
Yeah.
But that was your sort of what shall I say, way of life to make sure you could have a bit of fun and also make a pound.
Yeah.
And in the fullness of time, you took up bricklaying and spent the rest of your working life bricklaying, did you? Yeah.
When I first left school, I worked for Knox at Preston.
Right. Yeah.
Manor Farm, then Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had a couple of 3 years down COV.
Oh, did you?
I married a Grecian girl, Carol. And her old man was a builder, and that's how I got into the building.
Yeah. Well, I thank Claire for coming with the dad to help him with his thoughts, and in particular, I thank Dollar because he's kind of unique because he's the only one. He's the only one in many ways, because as you can hear, he's still much a Cockney, even if he's lived in Lavenham most of his life. And he's also the only evacuee that we know of that's still living in the village, and obviously the village must have been kind to him because he was willing to stay. Yeah, all right then, Dollar?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that okay with you?
Yeah, thank you.
Good man.
You could have to the value of 1 and tuppence, which would be 6pence a day, probably 2 very small chops. Butter was 2 ounces. This is per person per week. 2 ounces. Cheese, 2 ounces. Margarine, 4 ounces. Cooking fat, 4 ounces. Milk, 3 pints, dropping to 2 pints during the lottery period. You could have 8 ounces of sugar, 1 pound of jam per month. Sorry, every 2 months. Tea, 2 ounces of tea, 1 shell egg a week. Sweets, 12 ounces every 4 weeks, so that's 3 ounces of sweets a week. In addition, there was a monthly point system, and as an example of how these could be spent, with the 16 points that you were allotted, you were allowed to buy 1 can of fish, or 1 can of meat, or 2 pounds of dried fruit, and wait for this one, or 8 pounds of split peas. So that was a ration for an average adult during the war. Obviously it's not all there, but there you are, Chris. There's some bacon for your breakfast, some lard to fry it in, some margarine and butter to put on your bread.
David, if you knew Corporal Jones, you could try to deliver under the counter.
Okay, well done, Chris. Things like bread was not on ration, and vegetables weren't, because most people grew their own. Thank you.
Right, here we are at Bridge Farm, guests of Daphne and Susan Fairs. This is another instalment of the memories of Lavenham folk, and we are concentrating on the Second World War. Now, I suppose we're talking 75 years ago, aren't we? And I suppose you were still at school, Daphne?
I didn't go to school.
Oh, I see. Right, well, there we are.
Actually, I was in bed because the day war started, I was on a danger list.
Oh, dear.
I had TB, and that sort of went on from there, and after a time I had to go to Cambridge for operation. And then when I came home, I started working on the farm.
So where was that? For which farm were you on?
Brandeston Hall.
Brandeston Hall, yes.
Uh-huh.
And who farmed that?
Uncle Ted and my dad.
Yes.
Well, brothers, they're both brothers.
Yes. And so when you came back, the war had started.
Yeah.
And what effect did that have on the farm?
Quite a bit, because we lost 3 men that used to work on the farm, and we was allowed to keep the cowmen and the horsemen, and then we had 2 round army girls.
How many horses did you have?
We had 5 at the time, Suffolks and 1 Shire.
Yes. And who looked after those?
The horseman, what was his name? Prentice, I think.
Yes.
Jim Prentice.
And so, when they went to the war, were the crops that you had to grow, or the animals you had to keep, was that changed at all?
Yeah, we had 2 meadows which we had to be ploughed up for corn growing.
Yes.
And because Dad and Uncle Ted used to grow a lot of vegetables, so partly one of the fields were put down with vegetables.
Yes. And did you sell them at the farm gate, or did you?
No, we had it round. We used to go around with a horse and cart.
What, to Lavenham?
Yeah,
or
Lavenham.
Not Waldingfield.
No,
to Lavenham.
And we used to do the milk round, which used to be Lavenham, part of Lavenham, Little Wallingfield, and Milden.
So Taylor's had one as well, didn't
Yes,
they?
yeah.
Had a milk round.
Yeah, there was Taylor's and Mr. Steed.
Yes.
And they used to have chariot races up High Street, and that weren't quite pretty.
No, I can understand that. So as the war went on, did you come in contact with any of the forces that were here?
Yeah, we did, because we had the bomber group up at Great Wallingfield, and we had the one at Alpheaton.
Yes.
And because Watcham was all the go then.
Yes.
And that was quite hectic about here at times.
And were there any British soldiers about?
Not for long. There were
No.
some that used to come in. They took over the farm for a fortnight. I think it was the 8th Army. They took over the whole farm for a fortnight.
Did they?
Yes. And then they moved, and I think they went abroad.
Yes.
And they just vanished. Then, of course, I was in Lavenham at the time.
Yes.
In the Great House and Ropers Court. They took all that over.
Yes.
And also, what was the other one? The one down the bottom of Prentice Street, which is 2 houses now.
Yes.
Used to be in there.
Yes.
They took all that over.
So it wasn't only Americans, we had our own.
Yeah, we had
chaps,
our own here.
chaps.
Yeah.
So did you get bombed at all, or any
Yeah,
sort
we
of...
did. There was a big landmine went down Bolton Street, and thank God it didn't go off.
Bolton Billy, they call it.
Yes, that was a big one, and that was in the Swan for several years. And up the farm, one night we had 7 bombs drop, and they blew all the windows out the farmhouse. Another time there was incendiary bombs dropped down Hubbard Coal and set all that alight. There was a German plane shot down at Little Wallingfield in the wood going down.
Yes.
And that was shot down there.
Yeah.
And at that time I was in a spinal chair. My dear old grandfather pushed me down to see it, but he couldn't get me back. No, we did. We had quite a lot.
Yes.
Well, I thought that was a lot. We used to get under the stairs.
Yes. Well, I always reckon the stairs was the safest place, the strongest part of the house, didn't they?
Well, when the World War started, my father and his brother thought, right, we're going to dig the cellar out, which we'd got a cellar.
Yes.
So they put heating down there and beds and stove and that, and we used to go right down there if there was an air raid.
Yeah.
But my grandfather, he said, well, if I'm going to die, I'll die in my bed. And bless him, he was right, weren't he?
Yes.
Odd times we used to go under the stairs.
Yes.
We had a mattress under there,
Yes.
slid under there.
So when you recovered from your illness at the start of the war, did you go to school then?
I had private lessons for a time, but I hated it.
Yes. Because did you have any evacuees? That's the sort of thing
Yeah,
I'm
we
getting
did.
at.
We did. We didn't know. It was in the house next door.
Yes.
We had some, and then they called the Jocelyn family, and then they disappeared and went. And then we had Italians come in to work the farm.
But prisoners of war?
Yeah, prisoners
Yes.
of war.
Yes. Were they all right?
Except when I had a fight.
Yes. Well, they are. They're full of that, aren't they?
Then they got sent back,
Yes.
and we had 2 more.
Did they stay with you then, or?
They stayed in the house next door, because that was a double house. The farmhouse up there was
Yes,
double, so
yes.
they had that end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, isn't it? And so, had you met Jeff then?
Well, I knew Jeff then.
Yes,
I knew him as an Air Force. I'd
So-
been on to my father.
Yeah. Well, there we are. That's nothing new there, is there? So then he went off to the war.
Well, Jeff went in the Air Force.
Yes.
He got called up. He got a certificate come through to attend teaching college at the same day as his calling up papers come.
Papers, yes. And so where did he get to in the
He
war?
went to Watcham for a few months, then he went to Stradishall, and then to Canada for 2.5 years, and then on to Italy.
Yes.
And that's where he met Jack Waller.
Yes. So it's interesting. So Jack Waller was on the same camp as Jeff in Italy. It's quite amazing. Small
Jeff was a
world.
mechanic on the Lancasters,
Yes. Yeah, it's
which
good.
that's one that he done up there.
Yes. 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 Well, because Elsie told us all about her times with the Lancasters.
Mm.
So. So did you sort of, during the wartime, do you really notice a lot of difference to your life as a youngster, or do you think you just went along as you always had?
I think it went along, but I think the biggest laugh was, you remember we had a fish and chip shop up High Street.
Yes.
At the second one down
Opposite the cop?
opposite the Cock.
Yeah.
And Mum and Dad had sent me down after fish and chips on my bike, but you couldn't get in because the Americans were in there, and they nearly took all the fish and chips.
Yes.
Yeah. But that was quite interesting, and we had, like the rest of teenagers, you had your fun.
Yes. Yes. So you didn't have any holidays or anything like that?
No.
I don't suppose you did anyway, because you were busy on the farm.
Well, we had 2, you see. There was the 2 Land Army girls and me and the cowman, and we had the cows and the milk rounds to do.
Yes.
So that's quite interesting.
Did you do sugar beet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sugar beet, potatoes, wheat, barley, and clover, and What else did we do? Sugar beet. I can't remember what.
Oh, never mind. So how did the sugar beet get into the factory then?
You take them down the horse and cart.
They did?
Yeah.
And how many horses pulled what?
Well, once you got more fill, you had a trace of horses, which I was learnt to drive, which
Yes.
I hated, but I learnt to drive it. You'd have a trace of horses, bring them up to the heap, and then
Yes.
they'd be loaded up and go down in a tumble.
Yes.
To the station.
To the railway station,
Yeah.
yes.
And that's how we used to get rid of them.
Yes, yes. Yes, it wasn't a very good job of doing it by hand, was it?
No, it wasn't. Not chopping sugar beet weren't very good.
No.
But you had to do it.
Yes, absolutely. So when you had the land girls, were they any good?
Well, when they first came out of a shop in Bury, Lindsay's, a dress shop.
I remember it.
Remember? And the first job they got was sugar beet singing.
Yes.
And they sat on the corner up the road crying because they was in agony.
Yes.
They wanted to go home because they weren't allowed to go home.
No.
But they did, one turned out and helped in the cow shed and done the milk round.
Yes.
Vera.
Yes.
And Joyce worked on the farm with me.
Yes.
But they was good girls.
Yeah, good. Oh,
They worked very hard.
Yeah.
It was hard because coming out of a shop and turning around and going sugar beet or milking cows, which was quite funny. I thought that was funny.
Yes, I suppose you did.
You know, you sit to milk a cow, which you did behind them
Yes,
days,
yes,
and
that's right.
they most probably finished up in the gutter.
Yes.
But no, they did stick it out. They really did.
Some of these old cows would kick, couldn't they?
We got one or two what kicked.
Yes.
One always had to tie one up.
Yeah.
And always got one that had twins as well.
Oh, yes.
But Uncle Ted was very fussy with these calves.
Yes.
He used to have these special runs, and he'd go round every night to make sure they got water and hay and everything.
Yeah.
And you had to feed them with this gruel that we had to mix. It was quite hard, but because there was a lot of Americans about here,
Yes.
the war, you know, second part of the war.
Well, the whole of East Anglia, I mean, Bury was poisoned with them when I lived
Well,
in Bury.
Lavenham was, wasn't
yes,
it?
Yeah.
You know, if you want anything, you had to go quick.
Yes.
Don't you lose it.
Yes.
Though they was very good. You used to get invitations to go up there Christmas time to a party and that.
Hmm.
I never went. I was never allowed.
No, actually, I'm surprised. No. So, what else can we talk about as far as the war is concerned? Did you have any doodle bugs?
Yes, there was one dropped at Edwardstown.
Yeah.
One came down.
Did you hear it?
We did.
Yes.
That was one night when Granny and me slid under the stairs.
Yes.
That came down, well, I'll have to explain, that came down at Edwardstown, top end.
Yes.
A sort of end of Great Wallingfield, top end of
Yes.
Edwardstown.
Very frightening noise, wasn't it?
Horrible, but I
Yeah.
used to see them go over when the light went out, you knew, run.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know
well,
where it was
here
coming
stopped,
down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was fun, but that was really frightening.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. So, I was trying to think, did you tell me about your dad had been down to Waldingfield one night? Was that the night the bombs dropped on?
Yeah, so the night the bombs, the 7 dropped out,
yeah.
blew all the windows out,
Yeah.
and I think when he came back we had got no lights, and or lights of a sort, and he came in and he said, well, all the fuss about it, well, we ain't got the light, we ain't got the windows. What do you mean you ain't got the windows? Well, they blew out. Because he'd been playing crib up at Great Wallingfield White Horse, hadn't
Yes,
he?
yes, yes.
But that was a bit of a mess that night. And that was in the night the German plane come down. My dad went out with a 12 bore because the Germans were running along with a hedge, and there was my father with a 12 bore. But police were out there and they
Yes.
did pick them up because we then had a policeman at Great Little Wallingfield.
Yeah, well, we had one at Lavenham, didn't we?
Yeah.
So yes.
Quite frightening.
Yes, yes.
It was more frightening when the Americans come home after they'd been on a flight.
Yeah.
Because they always went out about 5 or 6 in the morning.
Yes.
And when they came back, you always knew if there was trouble because they used to put the red flares up and we thought, hello, somebody's in trouble.
Yes.
And they come down, that was awful.
Yeah.
But one particular day they sent the poor lads up, there was 7 come down this particular day in the morning. It was so foggy and that was awful. You could hear them, it was terrible. Because there was the one that come down at Lavenham, wasn't there?
Yes, yes.
Up Preston Road.
Yes.
And being a youngster, me and Kenny Harrell and one or two more went up there. I'd never do it again, Dave. Never. No, it's terrible.
Well, it's an amazing thing when you're young like that. I mean, one the crashed near where I lived at Bury, and I was halfway across the field to see it, and it blew up.
Yeah,
I was lucky.
That went up the field and come down, took the trees down as it come down and blew up.
Yeah.
And oh, it was awful. The poor chaps, that was, wow.
Well, of course, they did all their flights during the daytime.
Yeah, and ours went at night.
Ours went at night, that's right. And I can't think what was worse, to be honest.
Well, it's better when you're a youngster and you hear these flares see these flares going up, and you think, hello, there's trouble coming.
Yes.
The poor lads used to come in. I mean, our dad and Uncle Ted got friendly with a whole bomber group, and they used to come up the farm for a meal.
Yes.
And the whole lot got killed, blew up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the percentage that got shot down was quite considerable, wasn't it?
That was really bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's anything else that we can remember from those days.
No, just that food stuff was very tight.
Yes.
Well, I think we was allowed a pork pie once a fortnight.
Yes.
Between us.
Yes. Well, we were fortunate really living in the countryside, weren't we?
We were.
Because we had the vegetables and rabbits.
Well, my dad and Uncle Ted used to go and catch sparrows.
Yeah.
Because you had straw stacks then,
Yes.
and they get these big nets and put on the straw stacks and then catch the sparrows. And Mum used to cut the breasts off and we had baked sparrows with it.
Yeah. It's amazing what you have to do, don't you? You know, when times are hard, there's no doubt about it. Because
you was allowed two pigs a year.
Yes.
Which was one for Uncle Ted and one for Dad, and you'd take the houses at Ipswich to have them killed, and then that you'd bring so much home, fresh meat that you wanted, and the rest we'd kill, like bacon and ham.
Yes.
And Mum always had a leg of pork to salt.
Yes.
But it was laid out. And used to make her own beer.
Did you?
The horseman used to make his own beer and wine.
Oh,
They had big casks in the barn and all this bubbling wine and beer. Harvest time was a nightmare.
I bet. So, how did it talk about the harvest? I suppose did you have a binder with?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how did you? Was it tractor drawn or?
It was horse drawn first, and then they got a little red David Brown.
Yes.
And you know what Muggins was? Had to drive a tractor.
Tractor, well done. Yeah.
And I remember driving that. It's so funny. And my cousin was sitting on the back, and he fell in the binder because he'd gone to sleep.
So I think we've more or less come to an end, really, of our memories at the wartime. Thank you very much.
No, I could give you some more, but I won't.
All right then.
I'll be politely. We'll let that go.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I'll just explain. I think it was about 16 or 17 years ago, we did a 1940s show at the Church Rooms, led by Desmond Skinner, and all had a really, really good time. I just want you to join in, enjoy the whole thing, just go for it, and let's end the night on a good old sing-song. All right? Thank you.
Our dear grandchild, Wendy.
What is that? Now, before I came to Suffolk, I used to live in London. But the best thing I ever did was join the landlord. You see, they sent me here to Lavenham, where you couldn't wish to find a nice, friendly lot of people. Especially our other language. Oh, but this was one thing I don't know. And I killed all the land. You see, I'm a vegetarian, and that means I will only kill vegetables. But let me tell you what happened. On the farm, every Friday, on the farm, it's Friday, Friday, every Friday, and
farmer is fun, fun, fun. You'll get by without your rabbit pie. So run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Bang, 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 bang goes the farmer's gun. So run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, 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 run. Don't skip the farmer, it's fun, fun, fun. You get by without your rabbit pie. So run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.
Sadly, the government has time to include all the songs and recordings which we would like to do. But here, led by Elsie Heinlein, Quintet, the Empire Male Voice Quintet, the Empire Singers, please repeat, and I hope you'll all join me, just a few more 40s favorites.
Roll out the barrel, we have a barrel of fun. Roll out the barrel, we got the blues on the run. Sing boom tarara, sing out a song of good cheer. Now's the time to roll the barrel, 'cause the gang's all near. Roll out the barrel, we'll have a barrel of fun. Roll out the barrel, we've got the blues on the run. Sing boom tarara, sing out a song of good cheer. Roll the barrel, 'cause the gang's all near. Bound for old blighty shore, heaven be laden with bound for the land they adore. There's plenty of wait for the chorus. Here we go. Bless them all, bless them all. How many children and tall? Bless all the sergeants and WO1s. Bless all the corporals and their baby sons. They're saying goodbye to them all. As back to their billets they roll. You'll get no promotion this side of the ocean. So cheer up, lads, bless them all. Bless them all, bless them all. The long and the short and the tall. Bless all the sergeants and WO1s. Bless all the corporals and their leading sons. 'Cause we're saying goodbye to them all. As back to the billets they crawl. You'll get no promotion this side of the ocean. So cheer up, my lads, bless them all. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. With a cheer, not a tear, make it gay. Give me
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. With a cheer, not a tear, making gay. Give me a smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we had the words from Bill on the film, and we also had him singing. He knew all the words without the sheet. Not bad for a 94-year-old. Well done, Bill. Between you and I, he knows some other words, but we didn't like to sing them. He's here for audience afterwards for a short while if you want to be further entertained. But ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the evening now, and I trust you've enjoyed it. A very small team of us have worked to get this together, and we appreciate all the help that everybody's given us for the displays and for the catering. Thank you very much, girls, wherever you are. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and safe journey home, and I hope you've enjoyed the evening. Good night.